So can we have a round of applause for Tin New of Cupcake Central? I think yours should be working.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, how did you get started? Give us a little bit of an intro to yourself, if you could, please, Tin.
To give you guys a little bit of background, I'll actually start from the very, very beginning, kind of like from back when we were refugees from Cambodia. So I'm Cambodian Chinese, but my parents were refugees from the 80s when we migrated into Australia in the early 80s, in the early periods. And to give you a bit of an understanding of my background, I'm not from an entrepreneurial family or anything. I'm actually from a very conservative family who's very, very risk adverse. And they don't like taking risks. They don't like going out and doing things. I lived a very typical, would you say, Asian life where they expect you to go to school, go to uni, get a house, get married. That's it. And I can see people laughing up there because they can relate. So that's the general typical life cycle or life journey of a young Asian male like myself. But things kind of changed when I reached 25. So to give you an idea, I did the whole thing early up until about 18 to 21, actually 22. So, I went to uni. I got a degree in business information systems. I left university. I got a job straight away. I worked in logistics as one of my first jobs where I learned a lot of skills. And then I moved from there to POS and IT systems, which then taught me the next set of skills that I didn't actually know that I was actually learning to become an entrepreneur before I even knew I was an entrepreneur. And then from there, I went in and became the IT manager of a franchise company, Paradise Retail Holdings, which was a company that actually owned multiple different businesses under one umbrella company. They owned a chain of 150 pet stores. They owned cafes, they owned steakhouses. And that kind of opened up my eyes to saying, you know what? How did my manager or director do this? How can you own all these different businesses and then run them effectively and efficiently? So it kind of just opened up my eyes. So from there, that's where I kind of had a lot of learnings and kind of opened up my eyes in my work world to I guess, springboard me to the next phase where it was opening Cupcake Central. But even before that, I met a lot of people within the company that actually helped me get to where we are and open the first Cupcake Central. Also, we started off, my business partner back there, still my business partner, Cheryl, started off in markets. And then when I came along, I looked at the idea and the concept and I go, you know what? I think this is going to work. Because back in probably about, I would say, when we opened it was 8 years ago, there was an emerging market for cupcakes in the, in the market, sorry. And then I said, you know what? Let's do it. Yeah, I think this is a good concept. I think it was going to do well. And then we decided to open up our first store in Hawthorne. But it wasn't as easy as you thought in that early period. There was a lot of mistakes made. And coming from IT, and both of us coming from IT backgrounds, we don't have any hospitality background. I don't know how to make cakes, but I sell cupcakes all day, every day. And I didn't know how to make coffee or do any of those. But I think I attributed the first store opening to having all those good people around me. So, having the CFO of the company give me a hand in terms of determining my finances. The graphics designer next door gave us a hand developing our business and doing some graphics works for us. And our lawyer, which is still he's one of my best friends to this very day, looking out for us in the background. So I think a lot of people neglect to look at those things before they start a business and jump into those key areas. And it's good to be gung-ho and to go out there. And I'm naturally an optimist. So I love going out, doing new ideas, being creative. But I guess through business and the mistakes that I've learned, we've had to pare back and everything and look at the risks before you do everything. It's fun and all to go out there, but you got to have a look at, if you screw it up, how much is this going to cost?
Talking about your business partner.
Yep.
So Cheryl spoke for us. Was anybody here for Cheryl's talk? Obviously your skill sets differ. Can you explain about how those skill sets differ, and what is it that made that successful by utilizing those two skills?
I think we both bring something a little bit different to the business. So I think she said previously, I'm the creative person.
Yep.
So I like creativity, and I like the whole concept of hatching that dream. That's how I came up with the idea of hatching that dream, because you take an idea and then you turn it into reality. And that's kind of like where my skill sets come in, is actually taking an idea and actually making that idea happen. You know, from the packaging to the store fit outs, to the lease negotiations, to the finances, through to the strategy. So like, that's where we work a little bit different in those areas.
Yeah, and obviously in those early days, I think you were quite hands-on with setting processes as well that set you up for the long haul, right?
Yeah, look, when we first started, I didn't even know what to do.
Yeah.
and I think that's with every entrepreneur or every business owner. You're just literally looking for some guidance. And we literally didn't even know that we'd have to actually needed tea towels to wipe down surfaces and stuff. But, you know, we went out and then we started talking to other people, and then talking to other business owners, to talking to other people in the industry and asking questions. And 9 out of 10 times, people are happy to actually just sit down and have a coffee with you if you just go say hello. You know, like, I'm always open to sitting down and having coffee and sharing my thoughts and advice with anyone who just wants to go and sit down. So again, that what helped us build up processes and challenges in the early days. So we sought people who have already did it and then came and go, look, ask the question, and then we helped them start building internalized processes.
Excellent.
And then we started hiring people who are actually better than us at certain factors. Because, for example, I'm not a pastry chef, but yet we'll hire pastry chefs to go into the kitchen, help us create flavors. But yes, I might come up with the creativity of how to drive the direction of the business to the market. So when we first created Cupcake Central also too, coming back to the processes, we just come back to the process question. Yeah, it took a while for us actually to build the processes, but we eventually did it with just speaking to other different people.
Looking at the customer a little bit as well then, so there's a lot of similarities between yourself and Frunch that was speaking before about that, focusing on that customer experience. Can you talk about how you make that special? And
it's actually very funny, because when I first wanted to actually open Cupcake Central, I said I didn't want to open a pink frilly cupcake store that's just targeted to women. I go, if we're going to open up Cupcake Central, it has to appeal to both demographics. And I think there was a niche in the market back then, but every single cake store was just like pink and frilly. It alienated men to come into the stores. And I said, when we wanted to do it, we wanted to be fresh. We wanted to be cooler. We wanted to have a more masculine cupcake brand than a feminine brand. And working with the branding guy at the very, very beginning, which was introduced to us, his name was Matt from The Anatomy. He helped us a lot in terms of how to brand the Cupcake Central stores and all the assets that were produced. And he asked us a very, very question: are you a female brand or are you a male brand? And we said, we'd rather be a male brand. So 60% appeal to male and 40% appeal to women. And that kind of dictated how we created and crafted our brand and how we communicated. Because like, everyone can both appeal to it. So you're not segmenting out that section of the market.
And then if you think about, obviously, I think you've got 3 stores now, is that correct?
5.
5 stores now. So was it harder opening the second one to the first one, or can you shed a little bit of light?
I think actually the third one was the hardest one to actually build, because that's when we pivoted our concept into kiosk models. So our first 3 stores were all large format stores, which were ranging from about 60 to 80 squares. And that was kind of easier to do because we had space. But when we wanted to go into a kiosk format, trying to condense 80 squares down into 20 squares, that was a little bit more of a challenge. So you've got a quarter of the room, but you have to actually produce the same amount of cakes and work in that space. So that was more of a challenge back then. You know, we did it. We did some research, we worked around it, we figured it out. But yeah, that was more of a challenge when you were just trying to shift your business model. Yeah.
I think Cheryl told us of a moment when she had a bit of a meltdown. I think she was in one of the store cupboards, I think, when she had her biggest meltdown.
Yep.
Were you sharing those same meltdowns at the same time? And can you shed light on maybe one of your meltdowns, maybe, if you had one?
I think I haven't had a major meltdown in my life yet, but I think, I guess, when you're unsure, you get this feeling. Yeah, sometimes I would say maybe it's like anxiety. You get a little anxiety. And sometimes I feel I get that sometimes. You know, it's normal with an entrepreneur. You don't know what you're doing. You're not too sure. You get this little feeling. But I would say I always try to calmly, pragmatically look at the solution. And that's the type of personality I am. I'll always try to figure it out. I'll just wait. You know, I might have a little bit of a moment, but then I'll sit down and I'll figure it out. And that's kind of like my special power in the company. So he's the guy to fix the problems. And that's what I've always done in terms of all the businesses that I worked with, looked at things from a non-objective view and figure out what is the solution. All right, we talk about the problems, but where is the solution?
So do you use that creative mindset and blend that with an analytical mindset?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you into the numbers? Are you a numbers guy?
I'm a numbers guy.
Yeah.
Funny or not, I probably failed accounting twice in university. And then now I'm responsible for all the finances in the business. Yeah. But numbers drive the business's action and strategy. So I look at the numbers every single day, and numbers are what I need to look at to determine how the business performs. And my job is to decipher the numbers so it tells a story. So, you know, you might have like your cost of goods running at about 35%. What does that tell you? You know, like there's an inefficiency somewhere. And then you start to dig deeper into those problems. You go, you know, where is the inefficiencies? Actually, what is happening here? Then you might actually find out it's a problem somewhere else that's caused by a supplier that is actually causing you these inefficiencies. But yes, numbers drive everything. And I think that's the biggest thing for our business or any other businesses that I work with now. I'm very, very big on numbers.
And how do you then communicate those findings? So are you involved with communicating that to the staff members and the management?
Yes, so we have weekly meetings. So because we manage a lot of different businesses and different stores, we always have rituals towards the business. And we set up these meeting structures that we've been doing since, I wouldn't say day dot, but until we got to like about 5 stores, we had to put different processes and different, I guess, reporting into the business so that we could understand, because you can't be at every single store all the time. So every Monday we meet with all our management team, we look at P&Ls, we look at store performance, we look at, you know, what went wrong through the week, and we go through our minutes. You know, we give them action items, we make people accountable for their roles. But to say that now, like, was easy. It sounds easy, but it took us a long time to get to that point.
3 years, was it?
About 3 years.
Yeah.
Around there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then obviously looking past the 5th store, around that 5th store, kind of, what were some of the big wins from that? Has that freed you up to think more strategically, or has it just made things a little bit more difficult for yourself?
It made it a little bit more difficult for ourselves because the business model wasn't able to scale to a certain point. And because we're having multiple business models across different stores, it made it a little difficult to manage. And I'm in the process now of looking at how to reinvent these models to become a much more scalable business. So if you say like, I am still having more problems at the moment, but we are looking at the problems and fixing them as we go now too. So we have a strategy coming into the next 6 months to a year, and we're addressing it, and then we're actually putting the structures and executing the plan to actually be able to grow the company now.
Awesome. And do you ever get any advice on strategy? Do you have a sounding board?
Yeah, definitely. So same with Frunch just before. I have a great team of people around us, from lawyers to accountants to advisors and people in the same industry. You know, like it's the easiest thing to do is just go meet more people in your industry and just ask for some advice. And I always say this, just ask. No one's going to bite your head off by just asking a question. And if you don't know the answer, it's okay if you don't know the answer, as long as you go out and just find the answer. Yeah.
So you stole the question that I was going to ask you as well, kind of, you asked it to Frunch as well. So if you could go back to your 25-year-old self what would you say to yourself?
I think, you know, being younger, I was probably a lot more naive in terms of the way I did things. I would be very, very gung-ho. So if I was to go back to myself, I would say my 25-year-old self, I go, you know what? Pay for good advice early on. Yeah, sometimes you cheap out on advice, things like that, and it costs you more mistakes and more money in the future. You know, get good legal advice when you're doing your leases and stuff. I'll give you a good example. Like, if I didn't have a good lawyer helping me out at the very beginning, who's like my best mate now, I'd probably be paying 10 to 20% more on my leases over this period. I wouldn't know about fit-out contributions, where they give you money from the shopping centres to actually help you build the stores, which you have to be very, very careful about. How do you reduce down bank guarantees? You know what I mean? How do you get your employment contracts right so that you actually don't make these mistakes? So getting good advice early on. And sometimes if you have to pay a little bit for it, just get it, because it'll save you in the long run, because you're looking at the short term versus the long term.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And once you've got this strategy out of the way in the next kind of 6 months to a year, and you've worked on that, what's the overall grand vision after that? Where do you see yourself and Cupcake Central?
So I think with Cupcake Central, I think we're going to keep growing it, yeah? In terms of stores, probably not going to grow any more stores, but I think we're going to grow the brand. Our key focus this year is to keep building our tribe and our community. We have a big tribe. You know, we have about 60,000, 70,000 people on Instagram. I think it's about 30,000 on Facebook, and they're all engaged. So I think this year, our main thing is to actually introduce more products for them. Like, we have this following, but they want more from us. So we're listening to our customers. So we're going to give them more. You know, they want merchandise, they want books, they want classes, they want cakes, they want all these different things. So our next step would be building the product lines for Cupcake Central, building its brand and building its merchandise. Because, we don't need more stores to grow.
Excellent. And within those communication channels then, so is that like an open loop for what people want? Do you have a marketing team that's responding to that? And,
no. We speak to our customers directly, and I think that was the biggest thing. Like, I think Frunch talked about it before, like engaging your customers. Like, we actually speak to them directly. If they message us, we'll talk to them. You know, we bring it up in meetings. You know, what do our actual customers want? You know, is it just one-off, or are we actually getting multiple requests and things like that? So we're constantly have that feedback loop with our customers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. And a little bit then, obviously, past that, you're obviously experimenting and you're early investor in Pokey.
Yes.
So could you explain a little bit around that? And
so it was funny, because these two guys, Justin and Sam, they are very, very clever guys. They started up a concept called Scroll Ice Cream, and we did a collaboration with them early on with Cupcake Central, and it went extremely well. And then they came on and they had another idea called Poked. And Poke, are you guys familiar with Poke is? So like I explain it as like an open sushi burrito, like open sushi bowl with all the salmon and all that type of kimchi and all that stuff.
Things, yeah.
And very, very, very energetic guys, intelligent, smart as hell. And I always say this, I don't invest in the business, I invest in the people behind the business. And I really, really believed in them and actually the concept itself too. So before even the concept I thought was a good idea, I actually said, you know what? I think these guys are going to be the ones that will be able to push this business into like the best poke in the actual industry. And I said to myself, I'm going to back the number one horse. And just I think only 3-4 months ago, Poke won Best QSR 2018 Newcomer. So, and it got from, in 2 years, I think it's at 9 stores now, and interstate too. So a very, very good testament to the guys who run the business behind Poke too.
Yeah, awesome. So spotting that opportunity early is
exactly
having your finger on the pulse.
Correct.
Maybe we can chat about that a little bit more later on. But guys, we're going to hold it there for now. So guys, can we have a round of applause for Tin of Cupcake Central?